available for 2009 budget is overstated by the deficits that have occurred. Recommendation: a system should be in place that such deficits are detected in a timely manner and appropriately raised at the subsequent year tax recapitulation sheet. Page 7. 2 page 7s and 2 page 6s in this report. Management response. This was the result of optimistic projections in the previous year that were unattainable due to a significant downturn in the region's economy. As a result, during the financial closing process, an entry was made to record a fund balance reserved for deficits. The offset of this entry, however, was to increase undesignated fund balance, the effect of which would be artificially inflate the town's free cash balance. Since the town was and is still facing a serious liquidity crisis, an increase to undesignated fund balance was a corresponding increase to free cash that did not make economic sense. Therefore, a decision was made to reverse the original entry. As a result, the deficit was omitted from the tax recapitulation as filed and certified. Page 6 again, overview. The typical solution to the problem. Revenue anticipation borrowing is both costly and in the current credit crisis more difficult to secure. As a result, the town will face a need to cut operating budgets and raise deficits in order to balance their budgets in the future years. Revenue deficits approximating $1 million during fiscal year 2008 contributed to the town experiencing negative cash free exceeding $400,000. Since, as previously discussed, this was not raised at the 2009 tax recapitulation sheet, the deficit will, in all likelihood, still exist at the end of fiscal 2009. This has burdened the town because, in effect, the 2009 budget is overstated by the amount of the deficit. This has burdened, town may be required to issue revenue anticipation notes. Compounding the problem during fiscal 2009 are the economic issues the entire region is facing. This will result in lower realization of real estate tax, excise, and local receipts, in addition to possible cuts at the state aid level beginning in the third quarter allotment to cities and towns. The state is already forecasting 10 to 15% in local aid cuts for 2010. If the 2009 deficits mirror the 2008 deficits, the town could be entering 2010 with a free cash deficit approaching $1.5 million. Page 7. Finance Director's Office. 1. Reconciliation of cash balances between the Treasurer's Department and the town accountant were not done timely. Reconciliations, when done timely, are mandatory. In the prior year, bank reconciliations were seldom prepared by the Treasurer, and the payroll and vendor accounts were never reconciled. As a result, significant errors were commonplace. It should also be noted that the variance of approximately $30,000 that existed at the end of the current year is approximately the same as the variance that existed at the end of 2007. Page 8. Finance Director's Office continued. Again, these are excerpts. These aren't, these are excerpts that we're getting from this report. 2. The following items were not posted correctly. November 1st, 2007, debt interest payment due was not posted to the general ledger. Per MGL 41, Mass General Law 41, Section 56, all expenditures must be authorized and approved and processed through a warrant. The payoff of $1.4 million state aid anticipation note in December 2007 was not able to be identified on a vendor warrant as an authorized expenditure. 3. Tax titles related to water in the amount of $36,000 were also included in the real estate tax title account, so in effect double counted. The office should take care to properly segregate these accounts to avoid this in the future. 4. Through our inquiry process, we noticed that on a few occasions a department head was given checks to pay vendors prior to those checks being properly placed on a warrant. Later, the checks were placed on a warrant, but not until after the disbursement had been made. While these checks are minor and are always for time-sensitive items, this practice is not in accordance with the Mass General Law 41, Section 56, and should be abolished immediately. 5. Deficit balance in detail accounts should be flagged immediately to determine the cause of the deficits. Page 9. Finance Director's Office continued. 7. The process by which a vendor check is processed is distributed by school department invoices has weaknesses that should be addressed. Concerns. A signed school warrant and applicable invoices are not received by the town accountant's office until after live vendor checks are generated. It does not appear that a consistent and regular overview of the school warrant, invoices, or check register is performed by the town accountant's office prior to release of the vendor checks for payment to vendors. The existing internal control procedure to have the town accountant and/or town manager sign off on the school warrant is not being followed consistently. This has resulted in school payments being distributed to vendors and in some cases likely clearing the bank before either the town accountant or town manager sign off on the town vendor's warrant. Such an approval is a Mass General Law requirement. A change in processing and handling should be considered, which would enhance the segregation of duties concept relative to phases of processing. That was page 9. Page 10. Recapitulation sheet. 2. The town incurred revenue deficits in the general fund of $952,163, of which $592,827 relates to total receipts that should have been raised on the 2009 tax recapitulation sheet. If this trend continues, it would suffer a major deficit during 2009. Page 11. Single audit findings. 1. School lunch revolving fund consistently runs a deficit each year. For the last couple of years, the school department has had to cover over $100,000 each year utilizing funds from the general fund appropriation budget. The town and schools should consider the cause of the annual difference between revenue and expenditures and make whatever changes necessary to fix the deficit-inducing operational procedures. 2. It was noted that the accounting office had posted multiple grants to the general ledger. However, federal monies are required to be properly segregated and not commingled with other funds so that the transactions relating to the federal funds activity can be properly identified and evaluated grant compliance. 4. Result of cash receipts testing. Grant receipts were posted to the general ledger in excess of 1 month after the grant funds were received. No more than 31 days should ever pass after the end of the month before the receipts of that month are posted to the general ledger. 5. Results of vendor disbursements. It was identified that the school department had assigned the same warrant number to different warrant periods. This added significant confusion to the audit trail in trying to identify and validate the 3 expenditures since the error flowed throughout the general ledger. Page 12. 6. Results of payroll disbursement. We identified that some individuals are assigned to these classifications but are not paid out of the relative grants funds accordingly. However, the errors within the payroll records of personal classifications does cause confusion within the audit trail and may mislead users of the reports who are not adequately informed. This is number 7B. In April, the high school lunch counts relative to free lunches had anomalies whereby on 5 days the number of free meals served exceeded